Hey guys, happy Friday. We're going to continue on with Wishtree, starting at chapter 19, and hopefully next week I'll be back to read it to you in person. All right. Long after midnight, Samara came to visit me. She wore a blue robe. Her dark, curly hair was pulled back into a loose ponytail. Her eyes held moonlight in them. She sat at the base of my trunk in her blanket. She didn't look at the carved word, or the splinter of moon, or the blue and green houses. She just sat quietly and waited. It always took a while, but it always happened. One by one, the babies ventured out to see her. Harold was first, flapping awkwardly down to the ground. The raccoon babies, you, and you, were next. Raccoon mothers are notoriously forgetful, so they don't bother with traditional names. The possums, the skunks, they all came. Samara sat perfectly still. The babies circled her. Together they sat in the shimmer of moonlight and listened to my leaves rustle. Bongo settled on Samara's shoulder. "Hello," she said in her crow version of Samara's voice. "Hello," Samara said, echoing the echo. Bongo squawked and Samara jumped a bit. Even Bongo's quietest caw is a bit on the harsh side. Bongo flew up to my smallest hollow and poked her head inside, her tail feathers still visible. With something shiny in her beak, she returned to the ground in front of Samar. Gently, she placed a tiny silver key attached to a long, faded red ribbon in Samar's open hand. "It's beautiful," Samar whispered. "Thank you." Bongo bent forward, wings spread in a sort of bow. It was, in crow circles, a sign of great affection. I'd seen that key before. Bongo had inherited it from her mother. Crows live in extended families, and they pass information across generations. It didn't surprise me that Bongo still had the key, or that she decided to give it to Samar. In the sweet calm, surrounded by everything I loved, moonlight, air, grass, animals, earth, people, I wondered with a pang how much longer I would be able to savor such moments. There's the raccoons with you, and you. I wondered, too, if I'd done enough for the world. It was something I'd asked myself before, but impending death has a way of focusing your attention. That idea when things come to an end, you tend to reflect on them, and sometimes you kind of realize that you really will miss it. So like when the school year comes to an end, you're like, oh, I can't wait for it to be done. And you're kind of like bittersweet. You're like, I'm going to miss this because you know you're losing it. You know, when vacation comes to an end, you're like, oh, you start wishing already to go back to the beginning. If you have like sports you play and your season's coming to an end, things like that. And here, like death, knowing he could be cut down or she could be cut down, making her really think about her life and did she do enough? And I think a lot of people towards the end kind of reflect on what they've done in the world. Sure, I provided plenty of shade, made oceans of oxygen for people to breathe, been a home to an endless parade of animals and insects. I'd done my job. A tree is, after all, just a tree. Like I told Bongo, we grow as we must grow, as our seeds decided long ago. And yet, 216 rings, 864 seasons, and still something was missing. My life had been so safe. What I love about this book is the idea that there's an again. All right, there's an again and again. So we learned at the beginning that Red is an optimistic, looks on the positive side of things, tries to find the good in situations. And so she'll say things like, we grow as we must grow, as our seeds decided long ago. And then, so very positive. And then she'll go, and yet she's starting to acknowledge that opposite side of like, not everything's good and not everything's bad. And that she could think both ways. Things are bittersweet. Things can be good with a mix of like negative things inside of it. I think the big character change to pay attention to is, does she like acknowledge it? It's one thing to always look in the bright side and never look at anything that's negative. It's another thing to always be negative. To understand there's both would be a character change for Red. Upstairs, the curtain in the greenhouse moved. Behind it, Stephen was just visible watching us. I knew what he was thinking. One of the advantages of being a good listener is that you learn a great deal about how the world works. In Stephen's eyes, and the way he looked at Samar that afternoon, I saw something I'd seen many times before. A wish. After Samar left, I felt restless. Restlessness is not a useful quality in a tree. We move in tiny bits, cell by cell, roots inching farther, buds nudged into the sunlight, or we move because someone transplants us to a new location. When you're a red oak, there's no point in feeling fidgety. Trees, as I said, are meant to listen, to observe, to endure. And yet, just once before I said goodbye to the world, what would it be like to do something and be something other than passive? Remember we talked about being passive, aggressive, and assertive. To be an actor in the stories unfolding around me, maybe even to make things a little bit better? Bongo, I said softly. Are you awake? I am now, she grumbled. I have a question. I'll get back to you first thing in the morning. How does friendship happen? Bongo responded by snoring. I could tell it was a fake snore. Her real snores are so loud they scare the baby possums. I'm serious, Bongo groaned. I don't know, it just happens. But how does it happen? Friends have things in common, Bongo said. There you go. Your answer is in 5 words. See you in the AM, pal. I thought about her reply. But what do you and I really have in common when you get right down to it? With a loud exhale, Bongo flew to the ground. Okay, I'm thoroughly awake now, thank you very much. What's this all about? It's just an idea. Here's an idea for you. Ideas are a bad idea, said Bongo, especially if someone is in busybody mode. I'm looking at you, Red. Back to my question. Why are we friends? Okay, fine. Let me think about this for a minute. Bongo walked in a slow circle around my trunk, considering. I love the way birds move, so unlike trees. We bend with the wind, we're graceful and unhurried. Birds, on the other hand, move in flits and twitches. Their heads whip from side to side as if they've just heard astonishing news. Bongo paused. Well, to begin with, you're my home, and I'm your tenant. But that's not really a reason for us to be friends. I've had residents I wasn't particularly fond of. That squirrel, what was his name? Squinch? The one with the bad breath? It's not important. I knew it was Squinch. Bongo, I said, please focus. Bongo gazed up at me. We're friends because we're friends, Red. Isn't that enough? Her voice was small and sweet, not her usual get-to-the-point crow tone. You're right, I said, but suppose 2 people needed to be friends. How would you make that happen? Maybe get them together, doing something. They yak, they share a laugh. Voila, friendship. Am I right? I don't like it when you Humming leads to ideas. You can go back to sleep, Bongo. Thanks for talking. You're a good friend. Likewise. Bongo flew back up to her nest. Hey, be sure to let me sleep in. Bongo? Now what? One more thing. Why do you think people can be so cruel to each other? It's not like the rest of us are exactly angels. Last night I saw Agnes eat a whole lizard in one bite. Agnes, the barn owl who lived with her nestlings in my highest hollow, flapped her wings in annoyance. Hey, a girl's gotta eat. And you're a fine one to talk, Bongo, she said. Is there anything crows won't eat? My point, Bongo continued, is that the world's a tough place. It doesn't matter if you're a bunny, or a lizard, or a kid. With that, Bongo started snoring, for real this time. But I was still wide awake. Ma, what's that terrible noise? It came from the startled voice of a baby possum. That's just Bongo sleeping, her mother replied. Bongo had been right. I was hatching an idea. She'd always said I was a busybody, not to mention an optimistic tree. Well, there are worse things to be. Trees are strong, silent type, until we're not. Bongo, I said early that morning, as the last stars faded like weary fireflies, there's something I need you to do. Does it involve potato chips? Bongo mumbled. No, then I'd rather sleep. It's about Samar. You promised you'd let me sleep in. I didn't promise. Well, you implied. I want to grant Samar's wish. This aroused Bongo. She fluttered down to her favorite branch, the one she nicknamed Home Plate. Bongo likes to watch the kids play softball at the elementary school. Red, you don't make wishes happen. You're the place where wishes go. You're like a leafy garbage can, in a good way. For 216 rings, I've sat on my roots and listened to people hope for things. And a lot of times, those wishes never happened, I'm guessing. Bongo tucked a feather into place. Sometimes that's for the best. Remember that kindergartner who wanted a bulldozer? I'm passive. I just sit here watching the world go by. You're a tree red. That's kind of the job description. This is a good wish, and it's a wish I can make happen. I pause. Well, we can make happen. Yeah, I had a feeling that's where this was going. Bongo glided to the ground. Look, I heard Samar's wish. How exactly are you going to find her a friend? You'll see, I said, hoping I sounded more confident than I felt. Red. Bongo paced back and forth. With each step, her head bobbed forward. You've got more serious issues, pal. Francesca's talking about turning you into toothpicks, and your residents are frantic about where they're going to move to if that happens. She came close and nudged me fondly. Of course they're worried about you, too. I know that. Fresh baked bread poked her head out from under the porch. It was barely dawn, and only the white strip running the length of her face was clearly visible. I've offered to take in one of the tree families temporarily, she announced. Preferably the possums. They're better behaved than the ewes. That's very generous of you, Fresh, I said. But I was interrupted by Big Ewe, the mother of the 3 raccoon babies. She was in my large hollow, grumbling under her breath. I beg your pardon, she exclaimed. You have excellent manners. They're too inquisitive, said Fresh Baked Bread. Always poking their noses where they shouldn't be, grabbing things with those little paws of theirs. Well, at least they don't stink, Big Ewe cried. And your children have paws last time I checked. Hairy Spiders, the mother possum, peeked out cautiously from her own hollow. Possums name themselves after things they fear. Stink is in the nose of the beholder, said Hairy Spiders. And while I personally think your children have a delightful odor, Fresh, I've already got dibs in the woodpile 2 doors down. Should anything happen to dear Red, she patted me. No offense, love, just thinking ahead, you know. No offense taken, I assured her. I saw that pile first, Big U cried. Share the skunk den, Hairy Spider said. I wouldn't be caught dead in that place, Big U exclaimed. Not now, not that I know my inquisitive children aren't wanted. Well, they are a bit boisterous, said Hairy Spiders. At least my children have spunk, said Big U. Your kids faint when they see their own shadows. Playing possum is a very useful adaptation. Oh, someone's awake, said Hairy Spiders, her pink nose twitching. The world is a dangerous place, and in any case, we can't control it. It just happens. Where's the possums? Hairy Spider. I love that. If I may interrupt, came a cool voice from the highest branch. It was Agnes. There's a nice-looking linden tree 2 blocks down, just vacant by a gray squirrel family. We're looking at it as a possibility, but there's a tomcat that runs loose there. Collar, no bell, so that's an issue. Also a big slobbery dog. In fairness, all dogs are slobbery, Bongo observed. I really think you should all calm down, I interrupted. Let's not buy trouble. One day at a time, my friends. Who knows what tomorrow may bring? The mother glared at me. I heard a great deal of sighing. Too much wise old tree? I asked. Too much wise old tree, Bongo confirmed, as everyone retreated into their homes in a huff. They're all a bit tense, Bongo said. Worried about your situation. I can see that. I'm worried too, Bongo said in an almost whisper. I know, I said gently, but every cloud has a silver... Red? Bongo interrupted. Sorry. There must be something I can do, Bongo said. You're a good friend, Bongo, but sometimes all you can do is stand tall and reach deep. Red! Sorry, I said again. What'll I do without you, Red? Bongo said softly. You'll be fine, my friend, I promise. We both fell quiet. At last Bongo shook herself, feathers fluffing. In any case, maybe not the best time to be granting wishes, is my point. And there's just the doggy on the loose. So they want Red to focus on Red, not on Samar. Seems to me this is exactly the right time, I replied. Bongo groaned her little old man groan. She knew I wasn't backing down. And with that, we began to plan. All right, we'll do 1 or 2 more. We executed plan number 1 an hour and a half later when Stephen headed off to school. He'd gotten only as far as the sidewalk when Bongo dove straight towards his backpack. Poking at the zipper with her beak, she cawed frantically. When crows want to be loud, they can be very loud. What? Stephen cried. What is wrong with you? He dropped his backpack to the ground. Bongo landed on the backpack, looking up at him hopefully. Chips, please, she said. Stephen rolled his eyes. Seriously? Hello, Bongo said. Chip, please. Stephen put his hands on his hips. Okay, fine. I've seen you in action working the bus line. Bongo hopped to the ground as Stephen unzipped his backpack. You rock, she said politely. Stephen pulled out his lunch bag and opened it. Let's see, I've got a tuna fish sandwich, carrot sticks. But before he could say anything more, Bongo plunged into the backpack, grabbed a sheet of paper, and flew skyward. Hey, that's my English homework, Stephen cried. Come back here, you thief. Bongo flew high into my branches and landed with a victorious caw. Stephen stalked around the bottom of my trunk where the yellow police tape encircled me. Please, Crow, he pleaded. I'll give you my whole sandwich, please. Bongo perched on the paper, freeing her beak. No way, she replied. A few more minutes of grumbling and Stephen gave up. Great, he muttered as he grabbed his backpack. Miss Kellerman is never going to believe me when I tell her a crow ate my homework. When Samar exited her house, it was time for the rest of our plan. She paused as she always did to say hello, and Bongo, as she always did, said hello back. But this time Bongo surprised Samar by landing on her shoulder and presenting her with a mangled piece of paper. Samar took it from Bongo. This has Stephen's name on it. Why on earth do you have it? No way, Bongo said, by way of an answer. Well, I'll be sure he gets it, Samar said. Bongo gave a little caw and headed back to me. Perfect, a simple plan beautifully executed. Samar would give the homework to Stephen. They'd strike up a conversation about the crazy crow and the big oak tree. They'd laugh, they'd share, they'd realize they have a lot in common. Voila, friendship. It was a great plan, except for the part that came just seconds later. The part where Samar noticed a friend of Stephen's walking by. She dashed over and asked him to give Stephen the piece of paper. And that was that. Meddling isn't as easy as I thought it would be, I confessed to Bongo. Hey, I did my part. You were wonderful, I said. Well, we'll just have to try again. We don't have a lot of time. Red, Bongo said with a sigh. Please don't remind me. Aw. All right, we're going to stop there. So they're trying, it's kind of interesting to see their plans in action. They're quite clever. They're going to try to, it's like Red's final wish is to grant a wish of someone else's to make him feel like, or her, that she had this life with a purpose and that she wasn't just passive and she actually did something to intervene in a good way. So we're going to see what other plans they have to see if they work to get Samar and Stephen striking up a conversation that might lead to something like a friendship. And also you could see the animals, including Bongo, are really starting to worry about the well-being of Red and what's going to happen to the tree. So hopefully next week we'll read in person, and we are like cruising through it. We're already almost halfway done. So pretty impressive. Almost halfway done. So I hope you're enjoying it. Have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you guys soon. Bye.